Light is sown for the righteous, and joy for those whose hearts are true. Or zarua latzadikim. A light shines for the righteous and for all of us, because we're all the righteous, and we also all the sinners here tonight to repent and to start a new year. You can have a seat. It is my pleasure. You're right. I saw Olivia saying, but the Torahs are still standing, so we're still standing. That's how it works. I'm pleased to be standing up here with the Torah scrolls held by Karen Blank and our past presidents, Rick Rubin, Seth Davis, Lori Morris, and Lynn Geller, and to be up here with Eitan Cantor and our choir led by Leah Peer. And I'm really excited to also be sharing this bima with Rabbi Sarah Shulman. And you'll hear from her a little bit later tonight, our new assistant rabbi. But we gather tonight first and foremost to convene a Beit Din, a court, formal declaration that this is a court of law. That's why we start before the Chag starts, and we hold the Torah scrolls as a symbol of that Beit Din as we convene this gathering. We recite Kol Nidre to free ourselves of the promises and vows that we made that we didn't fulfill in the last year. So let's get started as we declare the opening of this court with the words on page 204, Bishiva Shel Mala.
Yeshiva Shel Mala u'Vishiva Shel Mata al dat hamakom ve'al dat hakahal אנו מתירים להתפלל עם העבריינים בישיבה של מעלה ובישיבה של מטה, על דעת המקום ועל דעת הקהל. אנו מתירים להתפלל עם העבריינים בישיבה של מעלה ובישיבה של מטה, על דעת המקום ועל דעת הקהל. אנו מתירים להתפלל עם העבריינים.
Page 205.
Kol Nidre ושרי ושבועי וחרמי וקונמי וכינוסי וכינויי דין דרנה ודאשתבנה ודאחרימנה ודאסרנה על נפשתנה. מיום כיפורים זה עד יום כיפורים הבא עלינו לטובה בכל הון יכרתנה בהון, כל הון יהון שרן שיקין שביטין תבין ומבוטלין לשרירין ולקיימין נידרנה לנידרי יסרנה לאסרי ושבועתנה לשבועות. כל נדרי ושרי וחרמי וקונמי וכינויי וכינוסי ושבועות דין דרנה ודאשתבנה ודאחרימנה ודאסרנה על נפשתנה. מיום כיפורים הזה עד יום כיפורים הבא עלינו לטובה. כול הון יכרתנה בהון. כול הון יהון שרן. שביתין בתהילין ובוטלין לשרירין ולקיימין. נדרנה לנדרה ויסרנה לאסרה ושבועתנה לשבות. כל נדרי ושרי וחרמי וקונמי וכינויי וכינוסי ושבועות. דאי נדרנה ודאי השתבנה ודאחרימנה ודאסרנה על נפשתנה. מיום כיפורים זה עד יום כיפורים הבא עלינו לטובה. בכול הון יכרתנה בהון. כול הון יהון שרן. שתיקין שביתין בתהילין ומבוטלין לשרירין ולקיימין. נדרנה לנדרה וסרנה לאסרה ושבועתנה לשבות. ונסלח לכל עדת בני ישראל ולגר הגר בתוכם, כי לכל העם בשגגה. סלח נא לעוונם הזה, כגודל חסדך וכאשר נשאת לעם הזה ממצרים ועד הנה, ושם נאמר ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדבריך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
We just recited the words of the Shehechianu blessing. Baruch atah Adonai, melech haolam. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of time and space. Shehechianu, for granting us life. V'kiyamanu, for sustaining us. V'higianu lazman hazeh, for bringing us to this moment. This is a special Shehechianu moment. Here we are all together as a community in the room, virtually and in spirit, beginning a fresh new year with a newly composed Bima team, and even with a new melody tonight that we just sang, Or Zarua, composed by none other than our own Tim Infin, that we get to experience on his birthday, no less. What a Shehechianu moment. And I am so grateful that we get to share it and that we have the spiritual resource of the Shehechianu blessing as a navigational system to find and declare holiness in our lives now, in moments like this, and even in the most profane moments. Just last week, I had a Shehechianu moment, not in the sanctuary, but right here in the HEA office. I had been operating without a printer for the last few months since I started here at HEA. And as the high holidays started to get a little bit closer, I started to get a little nervous, you know, the whole sermon thing and all. And then one day, James, our communications director, walks into my office carrying a huge box. James had gone online and ordered a printer for me, just out of the kindness of his heart. And we erupted into a spontaneous Shehechianu blessing over a printer because it was a moment, a new beginning, and a very important spiritual tool for a rabbi before Rosh Hashanah. Each of us have this opportunity individually and together to identify, to experience, and to share these Shehechianu moments in our lives, to remind us of that gift of life, which few of us take for granted after the years we've had behind us, to sustain us so that we can make it through the next year with the joys and pains ahead, and to help us arrive at every moment. Shehechianu is an invitation to find blessings and new beginnings. So as we turn to page 207 together for the Baruch Hu, we rise and our songs, our voices come together as we come together in this moment, as we've arrived and we appreciate this special new beginning together. Page 207.
ay, 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 המבורך. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Voed ay 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 da dai ay ay
You may be seated.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם מבועד איי 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 ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב ערבים.
Page 208.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו וקומנו נשיח בחוקך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגה יומם ולילה יומם ולילה ויאהבתך התעשה ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני איי 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 אוהב עמו ישראל שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. אדוני אלוהיכם אמת, אמת מלך וזכות.
We continue on page 210.
ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל, לחנו שירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם, מי כמוך, מי כמוך, באלים אדוני, באלים אדוני, מי כמוך,
מי כמוך,
נדר בקודש,
נדר בקודש,
נורא, תהילות,
תהילות,
עושה, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקיה לפני משה, זה אלי, אנו ויאמרו, אדוני ימלוך, לעולם ועד, ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאה לו, מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה, אדוני,
Tonight, it's so beautiful to hear all of your voices singing together, joining together our voices, and perhaps like no other night of the year, the voices of the Jewish people are united on this night at Kol Nidre, at synagogues around the world, concentrating our prayers on this most holy of days, And we come now to Hashkivenu, a prayer for peace that we say only in the evenings. And on this evening of Kol Nidre, we call to mind that this has been a year that has passed that has not been very peaceful around the world. With wars and humanitarian crises all over the world, our prayers tonight are with the people of the Ukraine, people of Ethiopia, people around the world who are suffering right now in war-torn places, migrants who are leaving their homes by the millions. Tonight, as we come together as a community all around the world, let our prayers be prayers for a peaceful year, a year more peaceful than the one that has passed. So we bring our voices together again now to sing a prayer for peace, Hashkivenu, on page 211.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Ushmor tzeitenu uvoenu lechaim ulshalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shalomecha Baruch atah Adonai hapore sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
We rise now as we turn to page 212.
כי ביום הזה יכפר עליכם לטהר אתכם מכל חטאותיכם לפני אדוני תטהרו. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בעלמא דברה חירותי והמליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן יהי שמי רבא מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמי יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמת קודשה בריחו לילה לילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן.
We remain standing now as we turn to the Amidah on page 213. This Amidah is the first of many times that we will recite the Vidui. It's a prayer that we pour out our hearts in confession over and over again throughout the holidays. And we strike our chest traditionally as a symbol of our desire to open up our hearts, to crack open our hearts to compassion and empathy, to better behavior in the year to come. And throughout this service and throughout all of the services of Yom Kippur, I encourage you to pray the words of your heart, the words in the book, the words in Hebrew, in the margins, in English, and your own words of prayer throughout. You can have a seat when you've completed your Amidah. The Amidah begins on page 213 and concludes on page 212. As you complete your prayers, you're welcome to take a seat. Kol Nidre, this night, this evening has a draw to it. It pulls us in. It invites us in. No matter how religious we are, no matter how often we attend services throughout the year, whether we believe in its theology or not, Kol Nidre beckons us. The words are almost irrelevant. The music alone is a siren song that stirs our souls, calling us once more to this place, to be with our community. Kol Nidre is one of those touchstone moments in the Jewish year when practically all of us show up, either in person or virtually. We show up on this night. Kol Nidre is also all-encompassing. We say Kol Nidre, all of the vows, all of the promises, all of the oaths that we took in the last year, let them be annulled so that we can start the new year fresh. And Kol Nidre is inclusive of all people. We began Kol Nidre services tonight with a formal convening of a rabbinic court, represented by the Torah scrolls held aloft on the bima. Since at least the 5th century, this has been a powerful convocation in which every person was included. As the sun would sink in the sky on the evening of the 9th of Tishrei, people would rush to shul, squeeze through the gates, come into the room, squeeze next to all of the other people, shoulder to shoulder, to receive this moment of Kol Nidre. And the rabbi would rise before the congregation and herald a formal declaration, Bishiva shel mala, Bishiva shel mata, by the authority of the court on high and by the authority of the court below, with divine consent and with the consent of the congregation, we grant permission to pray with the avaryonim. And I'm sure the people stood in the crowd and they look around and they think, who are these avaryonim? Who are these avaryonim that I need permission to daven with? The word avaryonim derives from the Hebrew word avar, to cross over, to pass. Hence the translation in our machzor, those who have transgressed. The premise of Kol Nidre is that we are all avaryonim. We have all transgressed. We have all fallen short of the vows and promises we made in the last year, whether to God or to other people or to ourselves. The Talmud says that a public fast must include everyone in the community, including especially the sinners, or it is not valid. This is an example of the Talmudic principle of kal vachomer. In fancy Western rhetoric, it's called a fortiori, right? If we can daven with the biggest sinner in the world, if we have permission to daven with the most egregious sinners, then surely all of us must be included. All of us are welcome, and all of us stand before the judge of heaven and earth the same. We are all avaryonim. And Kol Nidre is a reminder that we all need to be here. This ritual is not valid if it doesn't include everyone, and our community is not complete if it isn't welcoming to all those who wish to enter. And we need to make this declaration out loud. We need to say it out loud. It cannot simply be implied. We must send the full-throated message that truly all are welcome. We all belong, and we all get to say, Hineni, here I am. The word avar also is used to describe the Jewish people. The founding father of our people, Abraham, is called Avraham HaIvri, Abraham the Hebrew. The medieval commentator Rashi explains that the word Ivri comes from the word avar, to cross over, because Abraham had crossed over the river Euphrates on his journey to the land God promised would belong to his descendants. So we are all Ivrim, avaryonim. And ever since Abraham and Sarah, we've been a journeying people. Through exiles and migrations, we've traveled the world. And we've picked up friends along the way. We've been all over the world, and it's no wonder that Jews look different wherever you go. There isn't one way to look Jewish. We've blended with the peoples of the world, and they've blended with us, many of them joining our people just as they did in ancient times, invited into Abraham and Sarah's tent. But whatever path has brought us here, however far we've traveled around the world, every path brings us back here to this moment, to this place tonight in Shul at Kol Nidre. On Rosh Hashanah, I spoke about the value of panim el panim community, face-to-face interactions. And I also identified the challenges of panim el panim encounters. When we come face-to-face with others, we are confronted both by our commonalities, and we also discover our differences. Today I want to talk with you about the different paths that bring us here today, the many ways we participate in Jewish life, and the many ways that we express our Judaism. Being avaryonim, a people of journeys, has made us a diverse people, with as many ways of expressing Judaism as there are members in our community. But don't we already know that? I mean, it's obvious. Kol Nidre is for everyone. Why does the rabbi need to announce it? Why make a point of saying it out loud? Why make this declaration? The truth of the matter is that not everyone in the Jewish community has always felt that they had a place in synagogue. Not everyone feels comfortable saying Hineni. Sure, for much of the 20th century, if you walked into the average conservative movement synagogue in suburban America, and you were light-skinned, professional, middle-class, middle-aged, married, heterosexual couple with 2.5 children, right? You probably felt very much at home. You felt welcomed and comfortable saying, Hineni, here I am, I'm a Jew. But that hasn't been the case for many others who don't fit that stereotype. Synagogues like ours have not always been welcoming to everyone. Sephardic and Middle Eastern Jews, Jews of color, Jews who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender, people who are single are sometimes discriminated against, or couples that don't have children. They have all recounted experiences of discrimination, suspicion, and exclusion. Synagogues have not always been welcoming to non-Jewish members of Jewish families, or to people who choose to convert to Judaism. Synagogues have not always been inviting to neurodiverse people like those with autism or other conditions that make it hard to sit quietly and listen to a sermon. We've not always made our sanctuaries accessible to people with disabilities, nor our classrooms to children with learning challenges. The reason that the rabbi needs to make this declaration is that it's not obvious that everyone is welcome. For too long in American Jewish life, we have been passively welcoming. Sure, over the years, we slowly cracked the door open, quietly. You know, we've cracked that door open for different populations over time in the 20th century to women and girls participating in services. But in many conservative synagogues, we don't really promote women's participation. Sure, it's allowed, but we don't promote women leadership as we should. And so sometimes we need to send a very clear message that HEA is for anyone seeking a meaningful Jewish life that is rooted in tradition and open to change, that is both authentic and dynamic. That is why we recently formed a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, or DEI. The group is itself made up of a cross-section of our community, and the decisions thus far have been, and the discussions that this group has had thus far have been fascinating and fruitful. So the first task of this committee was to articulate the values we seek to promote and to study how best we can communicate those values to the community. Because sending a loud and clear message about inclusion is important to groups who have historically felt marginalized in Jewish life. If you've been left out before, you need an invitation. That is why in June we made a concerted effort to communicate our commitment to welcoming LGBTQ people at HEA. We are in the process of updating language and pictures on our website to reflect the diversity of our community and our commitment to inclusion. We did a simple thing by posting that we have all gender bathrooms. And Rabbi Shulman and I want the community to know that we both are available to officiate at life cycle events for LGBTQ individuals and their families, including weddings, b'nai mitzvah, and baby namings. The first lesson of Kol Nidre is that welcoming has to be explicit, stated out loud. And the second task of the DEI committee is to better understand our members and their experiences. We can serve our members better and be more welcoming and inclusive if we know who we are. You know, I've been on these coffee dates all year, and I've been meeting people as I've been making this transition into the new role of senior rabbi. And people have asked me over and over again, they always ask the same question, Rabbi, who are we? What do you mean, who are we? Now, I know what they mean. They mean, who are we as a conservative synagogue at this point in our history? Who are we? What are we as a conservative synagogue? And that's a fine question. And there are ideological answers, but it's not an ideological answer that's needed. The question of who are we is also a sociological question. Who are we? Who are these 800 or so families that belong to our synagogue? We need to know that. Being a conservative synagogue isn't just about the prayer book that we use or that we have a kosher kitchen. Conservative Judaism needs to continue to be a big tent movement, committed to tradition while also open to innovation and change. We must continue to widen that tent and create a new opening for people to enter. So right after Yom Kippur, you'll be receiving an email with a link to the DEI committee's survey. We've created a survey, and we'd love for you to respond to the survey so that we can learn more about our community. It's going to ask you questions about yourself and your experiences of feeling welcomed or not, included or not at HEA. And we'd love to know. And if you don't use a computer, because we want to be inclusive, we have copies of the survey outside here tonight if you'd like to take it home, and you can mail it in. Or you can always call us and we'll send you one. We hope to learn more about the experiences of individuals and families in our synagogue, and we want to understand when and how people might have felt excluded or unwelcomed in the past so that we can do better. The second lesson we learn from the Avar Yonim is that subjectivity matters. Your lived experience matters. If each of us is created in the image of God, B'Tselem Elohim, then each of us possesses a sacred part of the divine. Each person is of immeasurable worth, equal but also distinct. Unlike humans who mint coins and they all come out the same, says the Talmud, God is different than humans. When God mints a coin, when God minted the first human being and created everyone patterned after Adam, each one comes out different. We're both equal and we are unique. And each of us has something to contribute to the community. The Rabbinic Court's declaration reminds us that we need everyone in the room. We are all imperfect creatures. We each bring to our community our own perspectives, our own partial grasp of the truth. No one has a monopoly on righteousness. No one has all the answers. Only in a truly inclusive and embracing community can we find a sense of wholeness, a sense of completion. That's what we mean when we talk about panim el panim community. It's not just about coffee dates, right? It's about actually seeing other people, getting to know them, really knowing them. That's what we mean when we talk about relational Judaism. Face-to-face, person-to-person, soul-to-soul connections. That's what it's about. As we re-enter the world after pandemic, into this third decade of the 21st century, we are going to need to know one another. And we're going to need to know how to know one another. And we need to truly see one another. Understanding and honoring our differences and celebrating our commonalities. Every movement for social change has made the same claim. See me. See me. Try to understand my experience. The call to be seen comes in many forms. Pride, Black Lives Matter, Me Too, they all convey the same sentiment. My experience matters. I want a seat at the table. I deserve to be part of the conversation. I am part of we. We don't just want to take a survey. We want to talk face to face and listen to one another. This year will be a year of courageous conversations and open-hearted learning. We want to be a community that cultivates relationships to better understand our lived experiences so that we can create a more just, equitable, cooperative, and inclusive world. Which brings us to the third lesson of the Avar Yonim. That when we seek to be as inclusive and welcoming as we can be as a community, we cultivate in ourselves the capacity to respect differences and find commonalities. In other words, we train ourselves, we grow in our habit and disposition as a citizen. To be a citizen is to enact the behaviors and attitudes that can strengthen democracy, to belong, and to see others. Witnessing the work of our DEI committee has been it's been inspiring. It's been nothing less than inspiring. And it fills my heart with hope for the future, not only of our synagogue, but of our country. Under the leadership of our committee chair, Clarissa Cohen, and with staff support very ably from Eitan Cantor and Morty Kadovitz, the group itself reflects the values of diversity and inclusion. The participants represent a variety of interests, identities, and perspectives. Disagreement in this group is encouraged and respected. When the committee first started meeting this summer, it articulated a set of values to guide its work. These values are repeated at each and every meeting of the committee. Here are some of them. Approach others with curiosity and assume that respect is intended. Hold an open mind. Use I statements and don't personalize. Respect privacy and confidentiality, and rather than agreeing to disagree, be brave enough to understand each other's point of view with empathy and grace. Wow, that's remarkable. Can you imagine a session of Congress opening that way? Can you imagine, for that matter, these days, a school board meeting opening with values of respect and kindness and grace? What an amazing thing that would be. When we talk about the health of our democracy, we can't just look at established institutions and laws. That's just part of it. Democracy is the practices of ordinary people of goodwill coming together in sincere good faith to solve problems, to compromise, to find common ground. The DEI committee is just one of many incubators of those habits and dispositions. DEI work is not only important for what it can accomplish to make HEA more inclusive and welcoming, it is also an example of what I've been calling civic engagement. If you've been listening to me at all for the last 2 years, I'm talking about civic engagement all the time. That's what we need. That's what synagogues like ours can do for society, is be a place of gathering where people of goodwill and good faith come together to get to know one another and understand one another. I believe that synagogues and other spiritual and values-driven communities can cultivate civic engagement and democratic norms. That's the ultimate goal. If we can learn how to celebrate our diversity within our own community, perhaps we can learn to create a world that is more tolerant, inclusive, and equitable. We can heal the divisions in our society and the polarization, which Rabbi Shulman will be talking about tomorrow in her sermon. The Hebrew Educational Alliance was started 90 years ago in the spirit of community and inclusion. Last year at Yom Kippur, you heard me tell the story of the founding of the synagogue. It was a bunch of little synagogues on the west side where everyone spoke a different dialect of Yiddish and they didn't get along. And the women of the Beth David Sisterhood got together to form an alliance, a school, to teach all of their American-born children, no matter what community they came from. The community was fractured with dozens of little synagogues, each representing a different region. And HEA declared to the community, Matirin lehitpalel im avar yonim. It is permissible for people who speak slightly different dialects of Yiddish to actually pray together. Now that might not seem radical to us, but it was in its time. And it marked the beginning of a tradition of the Alliance being on the cutting edge of more openness and inclusion. Hence, our synagogue has been affectionately known in this community for 90 years simply as the Alliance. And I love that nickname. I used to think, well, we need to rebrand. It's such a hard nickname. It's a hard name, HE, Hebrew Educational Alliance. What does that mean? People come here and visit. They don't even know that it's a synagogue. They think it's a school. But I actually want to lean in this year to the idea that we are an alliance, a community that brings people together. In the lead up to the high holidays, as we embark on a new phase in the history of our congregation, we launched our annual campaign and we called it Many Paths, One Alliance. You may have seen a series of YouTube videos featuring the stories of 7 HEA members representing the many paths that bring us all here. Each person in those videos has their own unique story and perspective, just as each of us has found our path here today. Karen Blank in a few moments will be telling you more about the Pathways campaign. And I hope you will consider supporting our efforts to serve our families along all the different paths that we take. Fill out that DEI survey. Tell us more about your experience, and we want to learn more throughout the year. Tomorrow morning, our Haftarah comes from the book of Isaiah. The prophet Isaiah exhorts the people to spurn empty rituals and instead live our highest values by caring for the most vulnerable in our society. That's the Haftarah tomorrow morning. One chapter earlier, Isaiah calls on us to be an inclusive of those who are marginalized in society and the foreigner living in our midst. As we look ahead to a future in which our community will most certainly be even more diverse, as we seek to be a warm and welcoming sanctuary for anyone seeking a meaningful Jewish experience, let us heed the words of Isaiah. I will bring them to my sacred mount and let them rejoice in my house of prayer. Their offerings, the foreigner, the stranger, their sacrifices shall be welcome on my altar, for my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. May this house, our beloved alliance, be open to all who seek a meaningful Jewish experience. May we learn to embrace and support one another more deeply in the years ahead. May we honor the many paths that bring us together as one alliance, and let this alliance be known as a house of prayer for all peoples. And let us say amen. I ask you to please remain in your seats as we invite Karen Blank forward to share some words with us. Karen, of course, is the president of our congregation, of our board, and she has been really instrumental both in this transition that we've been through in the last couple of years and in the DEI committee work that we're doing. And so it's my pleasure to invite Karen Blank.
Shana Tova. Just going to take a moment to repeat what Rabbi Grunwald shared with you, which is that 8 weeks ago, HEA launched the first of several personal stories captured on video, as he shared, of some of our congregants to represent our Pathways campaign. These stories tell the diverse and meaningful paths that people in our congregation connected to HEA. I hope you've had an opportunity to watch them. If you haven't, you can find the names of the individuals who shared their stories on the insert card in your machzorim. The stories are beautiful, they're unique, and they capture the essence of this community. They demonstrate that there are many pathways that people travel to HEA, ultimately connecting them to one alliance. My family and I also have our unique pathways story that brought us to HEA. 25 years ago, when my husband Dirk and I started dating, we took an Introduction to Judaism class with Tammy Dahlin. Dirk had already developed a special relationship with Tammy and Rabbi Dahlin because their son Shai was a preschool student of his at the JCC where we both worked. At that time, Dirk was exploring Judaism, and as our journey led us to California for graduate school, Tammy connected Dirk to an old friend of hers, a rabbi, who ultimately led Dirk through his conversion process. When we returned to Denver 3 years later, and were looking to join a synagogue, Rabbi Dahlin had a very personal conversation with the two of us. And at that time, he assured us that we would have a home here at the Alliance. At the time, we'd only been married for a year, and I really couldn't have imagined the role that the synagogue would come to play in my and my family's life so many years later. Our story is really just one of many, and there have been several more that congregants continue to share with us about their travels to this shul. Whether it be from 50 years ago on the west side of Denver, or from a family who just enrolled their child in our preschool, these stories illuminate the diversity that is created when these journeys converge to create one community. They remind us that even our most individual journeys are somehow a continuation of those who came before us and are shaped in part by those with whom we travel. As you celebrate these high holidays, think about the particular path you have traveled to arrive here at the Alliance. Take time to identify the markers of your path, the points that have potentially defined your Jewish identity, your connection to this community, and the reasons that you remain engaged. As you do this, please consider making a financial contribution to our Pathways campaign that reflects your connection to One Alliance. Your path, your story, your connection, they matter to us. And your financial gift to HEA allows us to perpetuate and strengthen the important work of this congregation. As Rabbi Grunwald described on Rosh Hashanah and just a few minutes ago, the power of connecting panim el panim, face to face, is the strongest way to engage in meaningful storytelling. This year, as we celebrate our diverse pathways, I hope you will reach out to someone who you don't already know and sit panim el panim, so that you may learn about one another's path. Imagine if each of us reached out to just one person, what impact we could have. Even though our pathways have all led us to being here tonight, we are not done with our travels. And together as a community, we create new chapters of our journey every single day. Our ability as an HEA community to continue offering enriching pathways for our member families requires incredibly talented professionals, dedicated lay leaders and other volunteers, and the financial resources to not just maintain what we do, but to expand our reach and capacity to authentically engage with those who want to travel this HEA path. Tonight I ask you to please consider making a contribution in support of our Pathways campaign so that we can continue this sacred work. It is critical that all of us who believe in many pathways, One Alliance, do our best to illuminate our path forward. As I mentioned earlier, in your mahzor, you will find a card describing the campaign. After the holiday, you can scan the QR code, which will take you to our website. You can find information about those beautiful videos, tax information, and a link to donate. And remember that your support can take many forms. Become a member if you aren't already one. Increase your current membership level. Make a contribution in support of an HEA program that's touched your life. Through your contribution to this campaign, you are saying yes to a stronger community, yes to helping others walk the paths many of us have walked, and yes to empowering our clergy and our professional team to carry out a vision for the future. When we give, we create ripples that are not bound by the laws of nature, but rather they're galvanized by the unbreakable connection from the past and to the future. Thank you for supporting our Pathways campaign and for being an important part of our vibrant community. Gemar Chatima Tova.
Gemar Chatima Tova. Karen, thank you for your beautiful words and being an incredible leader that has welcomed so many of our families, including my own, to be that person to help us find our pathway here. We continue with our service on page 223 in our Machzor.
Ya'aleh tachanunenu me'erev ve'yavo shavatenu miboker ve'yera'eh rinunenu ad arev Ya'aleh kolenu me'erev Ya'aleh 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 kolenu Ya'aleh 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 kolenu Iram bam 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 Hum bam ba di dum bam bam ay 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 bam ba di dum bam bam hum bam ba di dum bam bam Ya'aleh tachanunenu me'erev ve'yavo shavatenu miboker ve'yera'eh rinunenu ad arev Ya'aleh kolenu me'erev Ya'aleh 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 kolenu Ya'aleh 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 kolenu Iram bam ba iram bam bam iram bam ba iram bam bam iram bam ba iram bam bam iram bam ba iram bam ba
We turn to page 224 in the second paragraph, where we find the words Makom Bina.
והחוכמה מאין תימצא, ואיזה מקום בינה. והחוכמה מאין תימצא, ואיזה מקום בינה, ואיזה מקום בינה. Last line. הן יראת אדוני היא חוכמה, וסור וסור מרע בינה. הן יראת אדוני היא חוכמה, וסור וסור מרע בינה. ay arambam bay da la la ay da la la da la la da la la arambam bay da la la bam bay ay da la la en yirat Adonai hi chokhma Vesur vesur meira bina en yirat Adonai hi chokhma Vesur vesur meira bina Halalayla yarambambaya halalayla drabambam halalayla yarambambaya halalayla
You may be seated. Jews all over the world tonight are saying, aye, aye, in unison. In a moment, we'll turn to page 226, and we'll find the words, El erech apaim ata. God, you are slow to anger. Uva'al harachamim nikreta. You are known as the source of compassion. V'derech teshuvah hareta. You taught the way of teshuvah. Every day we are learning how to be slow to anger like God, how to be patient, how to be compassionate, and how to be our best selves. I think about these words often. El erech apaim ata. You are slow to anger. I think about them while I'm holding my 1-year-old daughter, Maytal, on nights when bedtime should take 20 minutes, but sometimes it just takes so much longer. I imagine God as my teacher, helping me, helping us all when we need it, to find the patience to just keep singing lullabies or do whatever it is that each of us needs in order to cultivate a spirit of patience. El erech apaim ata. God, you are slow to anger. Thank you, God, for teaching us patience and for building a source of compassion within each of us. God, as we enter these 25 hours of Yom Kippur, thank you for this gift of time and space to experience teshuvah through prayer, through reflection, through fasting, and through community. Thank you for being our teacher and for allowing us to learn and to grow, to change and to return. We turn to page 226 to find the words El erech apaim ata.
erech apaim ata.
This time we call forward Joey Simon and Lynette Simon.
תעבור על פשע ותמחה אשם, כי יום יתייצב עמו שם. תאזין שבתנו ותקשיב מנאומי אמר, כי יום ויקרא בשם אדוני, ויעבור על אדוני על פניו, ויקרא.
Please rise.
אדוני, אדוני, אל רחום וחנון, ערך אפיים ורב חסד ואמת, נוצר חסד לאלפים, נושא עוון ופשע וחטא ונקה, וסלחת לעווננו ולחטאתנו ונחלתנו. סלח לנו אבינו, כי חטאנו, מחלנו מלכנו, כי פשענו. כי אתה אדוני טוב וסלח, ורב חסד לכל קוראיך.
Page 227.
This is a new tune. I'm going to teach you just the response, which is the last line of each 4 lines. It goes like this. La berita beit, ve'al tefen la yetzer. If you repeat this after me. La berita beit, ve'al tefen la yetzer. beautiful. This is like just so amazing. Singing in here, I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. I want to cry. כי הנה כחומר ביד היוצר, ברצותו מרחיב וברצותו מקצר, כן אנחנו בידך חסד נוצר לברית הבית, לברית הבית, לברית הבית, ואל תפן ליצר. כי הנה כאבן ביד המסתת, ברצותו אוחז וברצותו מחטט, כן אנחנו בידך מחיה וממוטט לברית הבית, לברית הבית, לברית הבית, ואל תפן ליצר. כי הנה כירייה ביד הרוקם, ברצותו מיישר וברצותו מעקם, כן אנחנו בידך אלקנו ונוקם לברית הבית, לברית הבית, לברית הבית, ואל תפן ליצר. כי הנה ככסף ביד הצורת, ברצותו משגשג וברצותו מצרף, כן אנחנו בידך מאמצים למזור טרף לברית הבית, לברית הבית, לברית הבית, ואל תפן ליצר. לברית הבית, לברית הבית, ואל תפן ליצר.
We turn to page 233 in our Maksurim.
Shema kolenu Adonai Eloheinu Chuz verachem aleinu verachem aleinu vekabel berachamim וברצון את תפילתנו, את תפילתנו. השיבנו נלך ונשובה, חדש ימינו כקדם.
השיבנו נלך ונשובה, חדש ימינו כקדם.
שמע קולנו אדוני אלוהינו, חוס ורחם עלינו, ורחם עלינו. אל תשליכנו מלפניך, ורוח קודשך אל תיקח ממנו.
אל תשליכנו מלפניך, ורוח קודשך אל תיקח ממנו.
שמע קולנו אדוני אלוהינו, חוס ורחם עלינו, ורחם עלינו. אל תשליכנו לעת זקנה, ככלות כוחנו אל תעזבנו.
אל תשליכנו לעת זקנה, ככלות כוחנו אל תעזבנו.
שמע קולנו אדוני אלוהינו, חוס ורחם עלינו, ורחם עלינו, וקבל ברחמים וברצון את תפילתנו, את תפילתנו.
You may be seated. On page 234, we arrive at the Vidui section, the Confessionals. And there are actually two versions of the Vidui. One begins with the words Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, single words and phrases in alphabetical order. It's known as the Vidui Zuta, or short confessional. It's made up of single words, generic terms. We have trespassed, we have betrayed, we have robbed. The second verse is made up of full statements that begin, Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, for the sins we have committed before you. This is the long confessional. It mentions not only the failings and our sins, but the manner in which we committed them. It says, under duress, for the sin that I committed willingly and unwillingly, for the sins we have committed publicly, for the sins we have committed privately, deceitfully, or openly. Why are these two versions of the confession? The two passages reflect the psychology of confession. It's easy in the first version to admit wrong when you don't face the actions. You just say, I messed up. It's much harder to face the one we have to that we have offended and acknowledge the path that led us to doing wrong, to admit the specifics of what we have done and own the damage that we caused. How often do we confess without really confessing? If my actions offended you, I'm sorry, right? So as we recite the slichot, we confess our wrongs, but we must also reflect on the nature of our failings. We stand face to face with God, and we must ask, how did I get here? We now turn to the Vidui on page 234.
Eloheinu levatenu, selach lanu, mechalanu, kapelanu, ki anu amecha, ve'ata Eloheinu, anu vanecha, ve'ata avinu, anu avadecha, ve'ata adonenu, anu ke'alecha, ve'ata chelkeinu, anu nachalatecha, ve'ata goraleinu, anu tzonlecha, ve'ata ro'enu, anu charamecha, ve'ata novotreinu, anu ve'ulatecha, ve'ata yotzreinu, anu raitecha, ve'ata yotzreinu, anu segulatecha, ve'ata keroveinu, anu amecha, ve'ata mavalkeinu, anu mamirecha, ve'ata mamireinu, anu azefנים ve'ata rachum v'chanun, anu כשעורף ve'ata erech apayim, anu מלא עוון ואתה מלא רחמים, אנו ימינו קצל עובר ואתה ושנותיך לא יטעמו. Ay da ay da ay da ay 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 ay.
Page 235.
Ashamnu,
Bagadnu,
Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dofi, Hey. ישנו, זדנו, חמצנו, טפלנו שקר, יצנו רע, כזבנו, לצנו, מרדנו, ניאצנו, שררנו, אבינו, פשענו, צררנו, קישינו עורף, רשענו, שיחתנו, תיאבנו, טעינו, תיתנו, היי 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 היי.
Our God and God of our ancestors, forgive and pardon our sins on this day of atonement. Blot out and disregard our sins and errors. Subdue our instincts so that we may serve you. Bend our stiffness so that we turn to you. Renew our passion for observing your ordinances. Circumcise our hearts to love and revere your name, as it is written in your Torah. Then Adonai your God will circumcise your heart and the hearts of your offspring to love Adonai your God with all your heart and all your soul, that you may live. We turn now to page 237, and we begin together in Hebrew.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך באונס וברצון, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך באימוץ הלב.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בגילוי דעת, על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בגילוי דעת, חטא שחטאנו לפניך בגילוי עריות, על חטא
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך ביצר הרע, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך ביודעים ובלא יודעים, ועל כולם אלוהי סליחות, סלח לנו מחלנו, כפר לנו.
Please join me responsively in the left-hand side. We have sinned against you through denial and deceit, and
We have sinned against you by taking bribes.
We have sinned against you by clever cynicism.
And we have sinned against you by speaking ill of others.
We have sinned against you by the way we do business.
And we have sinned against you in our eating and drinking.
We have sinned against you by greed and oppressive interest.
And we have sinned against you through arrogance.
We have sinned against you in everyday conversation.
And we have sinned against you through conspiratorial glances.
We have sinned against you through condescension. And we have
sinned against you through stubbornness.
For all these sins, forgiving God, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בפריקת עול, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בפלילות.
We invite you to continue in Hebrew or in English.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בתשומת יד, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בתימהון לבב, ועל כולם אלוהי סליחות, סלח לנו מחלנו, כפר לנו.
You may be seated. We continue on page 242 at the letter Hey at the bottom of the page, and we call forward Michelle and Neil to come forward.
רחמנה דייני דייני לעניי אויבי עננה, Rachamana deyane leoni oiveyanena. Rachamana deyane leoni oiveyanena. Rachamana deyane nitvirei liba oyanena Rachamana deyane nitvirei liba oyanena.
In a moment, we'll rise and open the Ark for Avinu Malkeinu. As you've noticed, there have been a lot of Ark openings tonight. Open and close, open and close. Well, there's two reasons for all those Ark openings. The first one is because we have this magnificent Ark with beautiful gates made by one of our congregants, Ira. When I told the other Ramah camp directors that I was coming to HEA, one of the camp director rabbis said, "Oh, that's the one with the amazing tall ark." I said, "Do you know anything about the synagogue?" "No, but I know that ark is unbelievable." The second reason why we open this ark a lot is because by opening the gates, by showing the Torahs, we reconnect with God. God's learning through the Torah as we rebuild this relationship with something bigger than ourselves. We are on a journey, and the journey didn't start just at Rosh Hashanah. It began back at Tisha B'Av, when we were a time in mourning as a community, way back in August. And ever since then, we've been going on a journey of asking for forgiveness from friends, but also returning to that sense of divine that we feel both externally in this world, in the Colorado mountains, and in a sunset, and in the voices of the people in our lives, but also within us. So as we open the Ark for Avinu Malkeinu, as we connect to God Avinu, our parent, Malkeinu, our leader, let this Yom Kippur and the weeks following be a time where we can connect to that holiness, that sense of divine that is in this ark and these beautiful Torahs, but also within ourselves. May they be a mirror back at us for all the goodness and holiness that we bring into this world. We rise and turn to page 243.
Avinu Malkeinu chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu en lanu melech eleata. Avinu Malkeinu aseh imanu leman shemecha. Avinu Malkeinu chadash
Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu,
Tevach zoneinu, betzat oivenu. Avinu Malkeinu. Avinu Malkeinu achazenu b'tshuvah shlema lefanecha.
Malkeinu achazenu b'tshuvah shlema lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu shlach refuah shlema lechol amecha.
Avinu Malkeinu shlach refuah shlema lechol amecha.
Avinu Malkeinu zochleinu b'zikaron tov lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu b'zikaron tov lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer chayim tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer chayim tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer geula v'yeshua.
Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer geula v'yeshua.
אבינו מלכנו כותבנו בספר פרנסה וכלכלה.
אבינו מלכנו כתבנו בספר פרנסה וכלכלה.
אבינו מלכנו כותבנו בספר זכויות.
אבינו מלכנו כתבנו בספר זכויות.
אבינו מלכנו כותבנו בספר סליחה ומחילה.
אבינו מלכנו כתבנו בספר סליחה ומחילה.
נשמח ונשמע בקרוב אבינו מלכנו שמע בנו כותבנו אבינו מלכנו עשה למען חיים לא למעננו. אבינו מלכנו חוננו בנינו. אבינו מלכנו חוננו בנינו כי אין בנו מעשים. עשה עמנו צדקה וחסד. עשה עמנו צדקה וחסד והושיענו. אבינו מלכנו חוננו בנינו. אבינו מלכנו חוננו בנינו כי אין בנו מעשים. עשה עמנו צדקה וחסד. עשה עמנו צדקה וחסד והושיענו.
We continue to stand as the ark is closed, and we turn to page 245 for Kaddish Shalem.
יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי וחייכון וביומי חון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומן ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה ולעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן ועלמה ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צלותון ובאו תהון דכל ישראל קודם אבוהון דבשמיא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלם רבה מן שמיא וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואימנו
We so appreciate the incredible work of Leah Pierre and our choir. I just want to take a moment and just say, Yasher Koach, you've brought so much music into our high holidays. You've been practicing for weeks. Thank you for this incredible gift of your music to enhance our high holiday experience. We turn to page 246 for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לבני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
שמיים ויסד הארץ, משה וקרוב השמיים ממעש.
והשבותה אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים והשבותה אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 247. We invite mourners both here and at home to remain standing, and those for whom it is your custom. At this time of year, maybe perhaps more than other times, at holidays, we call to mind loved ones who are no longer around the holiday table, loved ones who left this world, and we bring them to mind as we recite the Mourner's Kaddish together on page 247. Yitkadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra kirutei ve'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei kol beit Yisrael, b'agalau v'zman kari ve'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'mei Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha b'richu le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru Amen. You may be seated. On behalf of myself and Rabbi Shulman, Eitan Cantor, Laura Infant, Karen, and our whole board of directors and our congregation, we want to wish you a Shana Tova, a good and healthy year. I want to especially thank Rabbi Shulman, who just joined our team this summer as our assistant rabbi. And this is the first time that we've gotten to lead high holiday services together because we're at the different services. And what a pleasure it is to be on the Bima together leading services. For all of your sake, I hope that in the years to come you get to know Rabbi Shulman and her family just as you got to know me over the last 14 years. And may we have many, many high holidays together. And a big Yasher Koach to Eitan Cantor. Beautiful singing and leading music today. Yasher Koach, Yasher Koach. I want to let you know that the festivities continue. We continue tomorrow at 9:30 a.m., both here and Shir Chadash services at Bethany Lutheran at 9:30 a.m. Something that is not listed in your little booklet is 4:30 we're having a healing service. This will be a lovely opportunity to come together to pray for healing for ourselves, for our loved ones, for the world. Rabbi Shulman and Eitan have put together this beautiful service, and it's also an opportunity for those at home, for those who are not coming to synagogue because of the pandemic. It'll be an outdoor service, weather permitting. So that will be at 4:30. Is it back in the Sukkah patio? On the Sukkah patio. Then it's followed by Mincha at 5:30. Ne'ilah will start at roughly 6:15, and we will conclude at roughly 7:15 with the shofar and the end of the fast. I want to thank you again for being here tonight. I want to wish you a Shana Tova and a Gamar Chatima Tova as we conclude our service with a little bit more singing and music.
Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, amen. Shana Tova.